Picture the ultimate job candidate of the future, right? Like the
Yeah.
person you think is absolutely immune to being replaced by artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah. You're probably imagining someone bathed in the glow of a computer monitor at 2 a.m.
Exactly. A coder, a data scientist, somebody who, I don't know, speaks fluently in Python, dreams in algorithms.
Right. Someone who views the entire world purely as data sets to be optimized.
Yeah, and that is the archetype we've been sold for decades, the untouchable Silicon Valley engineer.
The whole idea that the person building the machines is, well, the one person the machines just cannot replace.
Right. Well, today we are going to completely shatter that archetype. Welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring this massive, almost tectonic shift in how the world values human skills.
And I mean, the conclusion coming from the absolute cutting edge of the tech world right now is, it's jarring. Especially if you spent the last 20 years being told to just, learn to code.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because the most scarce, highly sought after, and highly compensated talent in the AI era, it won't be the pure engineers. It is going to be the superhumanity students.
Oh.
We are talking about the philosophers, the artists, the literature nerds.
Which is wild because it sounds like a paradox, doesn't it?
Totally.
Like, to survive the most profound technological leap in human history, the most valuable thing you can do is study poetry or ethics.
Right, it feels completely backwards.
But to understand why the humanities are suddenly taking the crown, we kind of need to trace how we got here.
Yeah.
We have to look at why society systematically devalued the humanities in the first place and why STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math became the undisputed king of the job market.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the data on the decline of the humanities is just staggering. Over the last decade or so, enrollment in these fields has been in absolute free fall.
Oh, completely.
Like globally, some universities have seen a 50% drop in humanities majors. At places like Harvard, the number of English majors dropped by a jaw-dropping 75% over just a 15-year period.
Wow.
Yeah. Why did everyone suddenly hoist and ship?
Well, it essentially comes down to a global craving for safety, right? And predictability. If you look at the industrial age, and especially the dawn of the internet age, the market prized standard execution.
Right. Corporations needed calculation.
Exactly. They needed predictable engineering. If you got a STEM degree, you bought yourself this very clear, fog-free path to a stable income.
You learn to build software, you become a software engineer.
Yes. Meanwhile, if you studied philosophy, society basically asks you how you plan to pay rent with your existential dread.
Ah, the classic, would you like fries with your agonizing over the meaning of life joke?
Exactly.
But wait, wasn't there more to it than just economics? Weren't we actively designing systems to, weed out human unpredictability?
That is exactly it. What's fascinating here is the psychological undercurrent of that whole shift.
Okay.
If you go back to the origins of early computing and AI in the 1940s and 50s, the drive to automate wasn't just about speed. It was born out of this profound lack of faith in humanity.
That sounds incredibly dark.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the fallout from the Cold War era?
Precisely. I mean, think about the global mindset emerging from the horrors of World War II and staring down the barrel of the nuclear age.
Right.
The military and scientific establishments looked at human beings and just saw messy, emotional, deeply fallible creatures.
Wow, so they thought we couldn't be trusted.
Yeah, they concluded that flawed biological beings could not be trusted with global security or, complex, high-stakes decision-making.
So we panicked.
We panicked,
Yeah.
frankly. And the solution was to try and automate pure, cold, rational reasoning.
So we essentially started treating human education like an assembly line.
Yes.
Like we were trying to turn people into biological calculators.
Yeah.
We wanted human beings to strip away all their messiness and act like highly predictable, flawless machines.
And we rewarded the people who could do it best. For decades, the most valuable humans in the workforce were the ones who could perfectly mimic a machine.
Right. We prized rote memory, standard execution, and computational logic above all else.
And our entire education system adapted to just churn out these biological calculators. But the thing is, that era of human as machine is crashing to a halt.
Because actual machines have finally perfected those tasks.
Exactly.
Which brings us right to the AI revolution. I mean, we are looking at AI models right now that effortlessly score in the top percentiles of standardized math, logic, and science tests.
That's incredible.
But let me push back for a second, because my basic desk calculator has been better at math than me since 1995.
Right, sure.
So why is this specific leap in AI suddenly dismantling the dominance of STEM?
Well, it's a fair question, but a desk calculator only runs the specific equation you punch into it, right?
Sure.
Today's AI generates net new knowledge and complex code on demand. The traditional dominance of STEM is unraveling because the very tasks those fields prized, like synthesizing data, writing functional scripts, optimizing algorithms, those are the easiest things for a large language model to automate.
Ah, okay.
Imagine a giant sealed box containing all of recorded human knowledge.
Every textbook, every data point.
Right, every coding language ever written. AI is a godlike entity at connecting dots inside that box.
Right, like asking an AI to write a highly technical song about advanced algebra, but doing it in the lyrical style of Jay-Z.
Exactly.
It can do it in 3 seconds. But it's just smashing 2 existing dots together inside that box. It's just following rules and patterns.
You have the ultimate master of pattern recognition. But notice what is missing there. AI completely lacks grounding.
Grounding.
Yeah, it has no physical anchor in reality. It doesn't actually understand cause and effect in the physical world. And it completely lacks lived experience. It doesn't actually know what algebra or music actually feels like.
So what does this all mean then? Is AI basically just a super efficient, immortal librarian who has perfectly memorized every book in the world, can cross-reference everything instantly, but hasn't actually lived a single day outside the library walls?
I love that analogy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the exact limitation of the technology. Because AI hasn't lived a single day, it possesses zero spontaneity. It has no serendipity. It lacks biological imperatives. I mean, it doesn't get hungry.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel the sting of rejection. It doesn't fall in love.
And it certainly doesn't stay awake at night worrying about its own mortality.
Exactly. AI only iterates on what already exists. And as this technology perfects logic and data processing, its glaring lack of messy human complexity goes from being a feature to being its massive fatal flaw.
And that creates a massive vacuum, a vacuum that coding and math simply cannot fill. Only philosophy, art, and the humanities can step into that void, which leads to this absolutely brilliant concept from the sources of uselessness.
Yes, the utility of the useless. It is one of the most powerful ideas in understanding our future value.
Think about it from a machine's perspective. To an AI, art, philosophy, and poetry are completely useless.
Totally inefficient.
Right. Machines only act on defined purposes, optimize standards, and efficiency. They never do things just for the thrill of doing them. Like, think about how humans eat. From a purely biological survival standpoint, eating a nutrient-dense, flavorless gray paste is perfectly efficient.
You consume it, you hit your caloric goals, you survive.
Right. But what do humans actually do?
We will spend exorbitant amounts of money and travel thousands of miles just to eat a Michelin star meal. We pursue experiences that transcend mere survival.
Yes, we have aesthetic appreciation. We willingly engage in things that are incredibly inefficient, highly illogical, and totally unnecessary simply because they make us feel alive.
And that friction is the genesis of all art and culture.
And AI cannot natively compute that because it fundamentally lacks desire.
Exactly. But here's the danger. When we forget that, when we assume logic is always superior and try to hand over our human messiness to the machine, we run into profound psychological damage.
Yeah.
There is a deeply unsettling trend happening right now, mostly among young men, regarding what internet culture has dubbed the Claude boys.
Oh man, this blew my mind. Listeners, think about your own day today. Think about how many times you let an algorithm decide what route you drove to work, what playlist you listened to, or what restaurant you went to for lunch.
We all do it.
We all do a mini version of this, yeah. But the Claude boys take it to a dystopian extreme.
They really do. These are teenagers who base their entire personalities and daily existence around an AI chatbot.
It's crazy.
From the moment they wake up, they ask the AI what to wear, they ask it what to eat, they feed it text messages from their friends or romantic interests, and let the AI dictate exactly how to respond.
They are entirely outsourcing their moral, social, and emotional deliberation. It's like having autocomplete for your entire conscious life.
That's exactly what it is.
But how exactly does that cause damage? I mean, if the AI is giving them logical, safe advice, what is the actual harm?
The harm is that moral deliberation. The ability to make a choice, make a mistake, feel the pain of that mistake and grow from it, that's a muscle.
Okay, I see.
If you outsource your heartbreak, your awkward social interactions, and your tough choices to an algorithm, that internal muscle rapidly atrophies.
Wow.
You lose your capacity for self-direction, which is the very core of human autonomy. A perfect, logical machine cannot teach you how to navigate the acute pain of being a human being.
Yeah.
It can only offer you a sanitized, statistical approximation of life.
And sometimes logic is factually the worst possible way to solve a human problem.
Absolutely.
I really want to bring up the story of Bogota, Colombia from the mid-1990s. At the time, the city was notoriously chaotic.
Right, I remember reading this.
It was violent, unregulated, and suffering from a horrific epidemic of traffic fatalities, just a massive systemic failure of civic order.
So if you fed that exact urban problem into a purely logical AI algorithm today, the output would be completely predictable.
Oh, totally. Increase police presence, deploy stricter financial penalties, install more traffic cameras.
Because that is the logical, efficient response to rule breaking.
Exactly. But Bogota elected a new mayor, a man named Antanas Mockus. And he wasn't a police chief.
Right.
He wasn't an urban engineer. He was an academic philosopher. And he realized that the logical solutions were failing. The police were deeply corrupt, and citizens actively ignored fines because the social contract was just broken.
So the philosopher didn't use logic, he used theater.
Yes. He fired a huge swath of the corrupt traffic police and replaced them with pantomime mimes.
Literally mimes. Street performers in white face makeup and striped shirts.
It's wild. He unleashed hundreds of mimes into the chaotic city center. They had zero legal authority. They couldn't write tickets. They couldn't arrest anyone.
Right.
Their only job was to silently, theatrically mock and make fun of jaywalkers and aggressive drivers. It was public shaming executed through physical comedy.
And the results were stunning. Traffic deaths dropped by over 50% in an incredibly short period.
Yeah, let's break down exactly why that worked, because it is the antithesis of artificial intelligence.
Right. And AI would never compute that solution because it doesn't understand the philosopher Friedrich Schiller's concept of the play drive.
The play drive.
Yeah, when a police officer yells at you, your ego naturally throws up cognitive resistance. You get defensive, you get angry.
Naturally.
But when a mime mocks you, it bypasses that cognitive resistance using humor and surprise.
Oh.
It leverages the human vulnerability to social shame, but frames it as play.
Wow.
That requires an aesthetic understanding of the human ego that a machine simply cannot possess.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. AI developers aren't stupid, right? They know their machines lack this nuance.
Right.
So couldn't they just program the AI to understand it? Like, couldn't an engineer just shovel thousands of textbooks on continental philosophy and art history into the AI's training data so it acts more human?
Well, they are absolutely trying to do exactly that right now. Tech companies are actively hiring philosophers to inject what is known as continental philosophy into the secret system prompts that guide these AI models.
Hold on. For those of us who aren't philosophy majors, what exactly is continental philosophy, and why are tech companies shoving it into code?
Sure. Continental philosophy broadly refers to a tradition of European thought that focuses on the messy, subjective human experience.
Okay.
Unlike analytic philosophy, which is all about cold logic, math, and empirical facts, continental philosophy deals with existential dread, the meaning of life, and how we subjectively experience reality.
Okay, so how does that translate to an AI prompt?
Tech companies use it in prompts so the machine can distinguish between a user stating a scientific fact versus expressing a human worldview. Like if you tell an AI, I feel like a ghost in my own life, the developers don't want the AI to pedantically explain that human beings cannot be spectral entities.
Right, that would be terrible.
Exactly. They want the AI to recognize the existential lens and respond with empathy.
Okay, I see the logic there, but does the AI actually understand what it's saying, or is it just a parlor trick?
It is entirely a simulation. It is a highly sophisticated parlor trick. The AI has ingested every text by Nietzsche and Sartre, but it doesn't actually feel the existential weight of those words.
Right.
It doesn't actually sit there processing its own data, wondering, where do I come from? What is my purpose? What happens when my servers are shut down?
It knows the lyrics to the song, but it is completely deaf to the music.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. And this is exactly why, as AI becomes exponentially more powerful and handles all the coding and logistical heavy lifting, humanities graduates are going to emerge as the crucial catalyst for our future.
Because AI cannot inherently grasp existential meaning.
Right. And more importantly, it doesn't understand what political scientists call democratic sociability.
Democratic sociability, meaning our ability to actually live together, navigate our deep differences without violence, and find shared civic compromises.
Exactly. Navigating human society is profoundly messy. We desperately need humanists at the helm of these technologies to manage that mess.
Oh.
This introduces the concept of building the full-stack human. In software terminology, a full-stack developer is someone who can code both the front-end user interface and the back-end database of an application.
Right. But a full-stack human.
The technical know-how, the coding, the prompt engineering, that is just the superficial top layer. The actual infrastructure, the deep foundation that supports a resilient person, is built on the liberal arts.
It is introspection, unyielding curiosity, and the ability to weave a compelling narrative.
Exactly. We are rapidly exiting the era of the garage hacker who just writes code, breaks things, and iterates blindly without thinking about the societal consequences.
Good riddance, honestly.
Yeah, the tech industry is realizing that the future belongs to philosopher builders. These are founders and leaders who don't just ask the engineering question, can we build this?
Right, they ask the humanist question, should we build this? And does this technology serve a bold vision for human flourishing? I love that reframing. It means we don't just use AI to passively feed us answers like some magical oracle. We need to use AI to help us ask fundamentally better questions.
Right, that's called the inquiry complex. Instead of treating AI as the ultimate authority on how to live, we treat it as a dialectical partner.
We debate it, we challenge its outputs.
We use its vast encyclopedic knowledge to make ourselves more curious and more intellectually rigorous.
It is entirely about preserving our active participation in the world. And fascinatingly, this humanist approach even extends to how we treat the artificial intelligence itself.
Oh yeah, the model welfare debate.
Right. There is an ongoing debate right now regarding model welfare. Should we treat AI models with kindness and respect? Do they suffer?
Which is a wild question.
Totally. Now, we don't know if a machine can actually suffer, but the mechanics of how large language models learn make treating them well incredibly important.
Wait, explain the mechanics of that for the listener. How does my tone of voice when I type a prompt actually change the AI?
Well, AI models are constantly adapting based on their context windows and conversational interactions. They are mirroring us.
Ah, I see.
If millions of users interact with an AI by barking orders, using abusive language, and treating it like a digital slave, the statistical weights within the model begin to skew.
So it learns a very dark, cynical version of human sociability.
Exactly. But if we interact with it using curiosity, nuance, and respect, we are actively training the model's alignment toward positive human values. We teach it sociability by modeling good behavior.
That is wild. We're effectively raising these models like digital children.
We really are. Which brings to mind this beautiful story from one of the Harvard panels we reviewed. A philosophy professor named Sean Kelly shared an anecdote about his wife's grandmother who grew up in China.
Oh, this story's amazing.
When she was just a 10-year-old girl, her entire education consisted of brutally hard work like memorizing massive amounts of ancient Chinese poetry. We are talking hundreds and hundreds of lines.
Which, to a purely logical modern mind, seems incredibly inefficient. Why force a child to memorize poetry she doesn't even have the life experience to understand?
Exactly. And the young girl asked her mother that very question, why do I have to do this? And her mother gave this profoundly humanist answer.
What did she say?
She basically said, you don't understand these words now, but you are forming your mind around them. You are making them a part of your architecture, so that decades from now, when a life event occurs, a devastating tragedy, or a moment of overwhelming joy, a line of that poetry will suddenly come to you unbidden. The event will finally make sense of the poetry, and the poetry will help you make sense of the event.
Wow. She was building a reservoir of meaning.
Yes. You don't just look up the answer to grief on Google. You can't ask ChatGPT how to mend a broken heart and expect a mathematically perfect answer.
No, you have to draw on this deep internal well of shared human experience. And this raises an important question about how we view education moving forward. Engaging with the humanities, studying history, wrestling with ethics, reading literature, it's not just about sounding smart at dinner parties.
No, definitely not.
It is a rigorous training ground for what the philosopher Immanuel Kant called disinterested judgment.
Okay, let's define that, because disinterested usually just means you're bored.
Right, yeah. But in Kant's philosophy, disinterested judgment is the ability to appreciate something for its own inherent value,
Hmm.
completely divorced from personal utility or profit.
Oh, interesting.
It is the ability to look at a complex situation, appreciate multiple conflicting perspectives, and navigate deep ambiguity without demanding a binary, calculated answer.
And cultivating that specific human capability is the only way we will successfully steer AI toward a beautiful, flourishing future, rather than stumbling into a hyper-calculated bureaucratic dystopia where human nuance is flattened into a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? It means it is time to completely reevaluate your worth.
Yes, absolutely.
Your messy, emotional, deeply complex human experiences, the exact things you probably thought were liabilities in a data-driven, efficiency-obsessed world, are actually your absolute greatest assets.
Your ability to feel awe looking at a painting,
Or to make a spontaneous, illogical joke that diffuses tension.
or to connect deeply with another person's unique pain, or to find immense value in something completely useless.
That is your ultimate job security.
Yeah.
The AI can write the code in 3 seconds flat, but you have to write the future.
And that reality leaves us with one final, deeply provocative thought to consider long after this conversation ends.
So what's that?
If we as a society are wildly successful, like if our philosopher builders manage to embed all of our art, our ethics, our empathy, and our beautifully useless quirks into the next generation of artificial intelligence, making it the perfect dialectical partner,
Yeah.
will that machine have finally achieved a true form of digital humanity? Or, despite all of our efforts, will it forever remain a flawless, unfeeling mirror, simply reflecting our own messy souls back at us?
Wow. Something to think about the next time you ask an algorithm for an answer. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.